When you buy a business, you don't just buy the profit. You inherit all the contracts that the companies are party to, including those with suppliers and customers. I'm Malcolm Zoppi, an English qualified mergers and acquisitions solicitor, and in this video, we'll discuss commercial due diligence from a legal perspective. We'll discuss what is involved, what you need to check in the customer and supplier contracts, and what documents to request from the seller of the business. By the end of this video, you'll know how to assess the company's commercial relationships from a legal perspective. You'll also know how to identify contract risks that could seriously affect the value of the business. For example, here is something that catches buyers out all the time. Some contracts contain change of control provisions. So that means that the other party to the contract can terminate the contract simply because the company that you have just bought has undergone a change of control, meaning there is new owners of the business. Imagine losing the company's biggest client the moment that you buy the business. How do you prevent that from happening? Well, stay with me. Commercial due diligence looks at the most important contracts that the company that you're looking to buy is a party to. This typically includes looking at the material customer and supplier contracts. And of course, you'll also want to check the standard terms of business that the company uses. These contracts are often the most valuable part of the business. They represent the company's revenue streams and its key commercial relationships. If something is wrong with these contracts, it directly affects the value of the business. In a share purchase, you take over the company as it is. The contracts remain in place, but in an asset purchase, contracts may need to be assigned or novated. That brings a different set of challenges. Either way, you'll need to understand what is involved with those contracts and how do you continue benefiting from those contracts once you've bought the business. Okay, so now that we've gotten the theory out of the way, let's look at what actually happens in practice and what are the things that you actually need to look out for when reviewing those contracts. Firstly is change of control provisions. So if you're conducting a share purchase, this is extremely important. Some contracts give the other party to the contract the right to terminate if the company that you're buying changes control. Change of control typically is defined as more than 50% of the shares of the company are sold to someone else. If one of the company's top clients has that right, this is a significant risk. You'll need to work out whether their consent is needed and how to obtain the consent of that client before completion. Secondly, it's assignment and novation rights. If you're doing an asset purchase as opposed to a share purchase, you'll need to transfer the rights and benefits to those contracts. You'll want to check whether the contract specifically or expressly allows the company that you're entering into the asset purchase agreement with, whether it allows them to assign the rights and obligations to that contract to yourself. If that express right to assignment is not included in the contract, then you'll need to novate that contract. That means that yourself, the seller of the business, and the client or the supplier that you're interested in need to all sign a different contract confirming that the new person, yourself, is going to be the one that delivers the service, for example. Thirdly, make sure to look out for contract expiry dates. You'll want to check when each key contract is due to expire. If a major customer contract expires in 3 months, the revenue is certainly not guaranteed. The shorter the remaining term, the less certainty you have. You also want to look out for automatic renewal clauses. So for example, if there is an expensive supplier contract that you do not want to continue being party to once you bought the business, you'll want to check whether there's an automatic renewal clause and how to avoid that actually taking effect. Fourthly, look out for customer and supplier concentration. You'll want to assess how much of the business depends on any one customer or supplier. If, for example, one customer accounts for half the revenue, this is a real concentration risk. The same applies to suppliers. If the company relies on a single supplier for a critical input, you're exposed if that relationship breaks down. Fifth, compliance with relevant laws. You'll want to review the company's standard terms of business. If the company sells, for example, to consumers, these terms need to comply with the Consumer Rights Act. And lastly, unusual contracts. Look out for any contracts with unusual terms. This could include long-term exclusivity arrangements, penalty clauses, or obligations that are disproportionate to the value of the contract. Now, before we discuss the documents that you'll want to inspect, feel free to email me if looking for professional legal advice. With our legal advice calls, there are no charges, no obligations, there's going to be no nonsense. Contact me now at info@zoppi.co.uk. Here are the documents you'll want to ask for. First is the material customer contracts. You'll want to request copies of all material customer contracts. As a pro tip, check if the customer is connected to the seller of the business. For example, is the customer a sister company? This may be a risk because that contract may end once a company has been sold. Secondly, supplier contracts. Here, pay particular attention to minimum purchase commitments, exclusivity, and termination clauses. And lastly, standard terms of business. Review these to make sure that they are suitable and something that actually add value and certainty of revenue. And that is how you conduct commercial due diligence from a legal perspective. Thank you for watching, and in the next video, we'll cover intellectual property due diligence, including how to verify that the business actually owns its brand. See you in the next one.